Thank you for the chance to speak out against the death penalty. My name is Marian Taylor, and I'm the Executive Director of the Kentucky Council of Churches. For me, going way back personally, I've always found the death penalty and executions to be repulsive. Part of the reason for that is to think about what it's like to be captive and have someone taking care of you day in and day out, bringing you food, and knowing that that same person one day may turn and be part of the ending of your life. I think about that also from the point of view of the staff people that we pay to have that kind of relationship with people who are on death row. To me, it seems completely unwholesome and not something that I want to be part of. I don't want to be complicit in killing people. As I studied it, I became more convinced because I looked at some of the public policy aspects and came to realize that this is not something that deters crime at all. Instead, it creates a culture of death and violence all around us. Also, I'm very concerned, and the churches have been concerned and spoken out about the racist dimension of this and the discrimination against people who are poor, folks who can't afford to have good representation from the very beginning are at a disadvantage from the get-go in the criminal justice system. And that accumulates and becomes a situation where some people are much more likely to end up on death row than others because of their demographic characteristics. That strikes me as fundamentally unfair and unjust. The churches have raised voices about these things, but also many other people of conscience have, for their own reasons, agreed with the churches on these issues of justice. For me, though, the clincher and the bedrock of my opposition is theological. It's a question of what the churches teach us is who God is. God in relation to us is love. The scriptures teach that God is restless and tireless in pursuing us and drawing us back into righteousness and into right relationships with God and with each other. Jesus showed us that, and people didn't like the way that Jesus reached out indiscriminately to everybody to call them back into redemption and to salvation. And people don't like it today when the church says that there are no boundaries on God's love, that we do not have permission to give up on each other. God has given us the ministry of reconciliation, calls us into God's tireless, endless love that has no boundaries. So I chose to stand next to this tree of life, which is a representation by a Haitian artist of that image in the book of Revelation, that the goal that God has for all of creation is the healing of the nations. The leaves of the tree of life are for the healing of the nations. If our lives aren't about participating in healing and reconciliation, then we are not aligned with God's will. So I pray that and believe that God is helping us all to wake up about the death penalty and put an end to this thing that denies life. Thank you very much.